All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Choose Strong podcast. I am so excited about having our guest today, Kat Edwards Anderson, who many of you are probably familiar with by now, especially. She is top 10 at Cocodona 250 for the past 2 years, coming in at one of the most competitive year ever. It's 6th place this year. So we're definitely going to dive in to a little bit of her race, but also the most importantly, just who she is as a person. I had the wonderful privilege of being able to run with her for about 25 miles this year at Cocodona 250 and just absolutely became enamored with who she is, what she stands for, and just the light that she has. So I think everyone listening today is going to gain some encouragement, some inspiration from Kat. For everyone that has just started training, if you've started racing, first and foremost, we are so stoked that you decided to choose us to join you for your run. As always, well done for showing up for yourself. To our youth listeners, you know we love you. We're always cheering for you. We know it's the middle of summer for you, so we hope you're having so much fun. And then to our YouTube and Spotify video audience, hello, we are waving at you, and we're so happy that you decided to spend your day or your evening just hanging out with us. And without further ado, hello, Kat. How are you?
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. It's such a pleasure, yeah.
What part of the world are you in right now?
I am hailing from the East Coast, so I am in Virginia. I live just next to Shenandoah National Park, which is in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and
Yes.
fully in the thick of summer. So
Yeah. So you're in the thick of humidity is what you're in.
yeah, mostly underwater at the moment.
Did you grow up in Virginia? Are you born and raised?
No, I actually I grew up in Northern Michigan, so not that like the typical hand thing, I guess, for the video audience is like top of the mitten up here by
Yeah.
the Straits of Mackinac. So I grew up just off of Lake Michigan, in a little town called Charlevoix. And then I ended up moving to Virginia in 2020, following my parents here after my dad's job. Took
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your family, your brothers, sisters.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm the middle of 5 girls, so I'm from a family of 7. I think that's something that we bonded over as middle
Yes.
child, running
We're the
family
middle
race.
ones. So true.
So yeah, my mom and my dad, and then I have 2 older sisters, one of which is in Virginia, one of which is in Indiana, and then I have 2 younger sisters. The youngest one is still in high school, and then the second youngest is out in Colorado. So a little bit spread, which is sad, but it's always fun when we can get together.
Yeah, you had some of your family out at Cocodona 250, right?
Yeah, so my dad was out there and he got to pace me for a section, and then my one of my older sisters, Jess, she was out there. She got to pace me for a section and crew me, and then my younger sister, Jill, she was crewing me. She's had some health stuff going on, so she couldn't pace me, but she's my ride or die. She'll the one that's like in the middle of a college break, will fly across the country to crew and pace me for a race, and then fly back home. So she's awesome. It was super great.
It sounds like you're very blessed with a close family. How old are you, Kat?
Yeah, I'm 26.
Yeah, 26. I think when you and I were running along, I said to you at one point, I'm like, I could be your mama. I'm finally at that age now where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm 20 years older than you. Like,
That's crazy.
I know it was so crazy, but I think what I really loved was hearing you talk about your family. And yeah, you and I bonded because we're both the middle of 5 children. I also have I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. You have 4 sisters, and so I think we laughed a little bit about that. How many hormones are in under one roof is wild, but also wonderful. But tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in your home. What is your relationship like with your parents?
Mhm.
And then we'll kind of get into like sports, like
Yeah.
what sports was like. Yeah.
Yeah, so, um, I would say that my upbringing is, like, incredible in a lot of ways, but it was hard in also a lot of ways. I'm blessed to have parents that love us really deeply, but growing up, things got a little interesting just because life was hard for us, specifically financially. My mom was a nurse, and she would work night shifts at the hospital with 4 young girls at home. And then, early on when I was young, my dad lost his job, and then eventually went down the path that he was called to go on, which was not an easy one, and ultimately became a master sommelier and worked for himself consulting. But that also meant when you're an entrepreneur, like, sometimes people don't pay you on time. Sometimes people don't pay you at all when they're supposed to. And so I just remember times growing up where, like, our family was together, but it felt like there was just, like, a lot of tension, a lot of conflict. And while I didn't really understand what was going on, I could kind of, like, sense that as a young kid. Like, sometimes electric went out, and sometimes, like, didn't have the extra stuff at school that other kids had, but, um, we always had what we needed, and there was always people in the community showing up for us. Um, and I think, like, that was kind of the undertone of just, like, trying to get through. But I think a blessing out of that was I learned pretty early on how to work hard. Like, I had my first job at the age of 12 because it was like, "Hey, if we wanna do extra stuff, if we want extra things, like, we find a way to earn it." And so I started working on a farm. I would bike myself from my house to the farm, and I was joking with my mom last week because my sisters would ride their bikes to work too. And the lore just keeps getting longer and longer about how far we had to ride our bikes to go to work. Um, and it makes me laugh 'cause we're like, "Oh, rode my Schwinn bike with no gears all the way across town, to get to the farm," but it was good. I got to, like, pick berries all summer, and, it was fun, but that was kind of like the younger years. And then come high school, I always like to, um, share the share the story of, like, the 4 older sisters, because my youngest sister was born 7 years after us.
Mhm.
So she was in a very much a different season of life than the olders. Um, and so she needed her own room to, like, have her own bedtime and stuff. So come high school, the 4 oldest, we all shared one room, so we had 2 sets of bunk beds. Um, and those 4 years, we hated each other. Like, there was so much conflict, there was clothes stealing and just, like, no personal space, and we laugh about it now because my, younger sister just has a very different life than we did, but, um, we laugh now because it's just, like, we couldn't stand each other then, but we wish we were so close together now. So yeah, I'm grateful to have made it through a lot of hard seasons growing up, um, but have, like, an awesome family around to support, and sisters who I can call up in a heartbeat and call each other and take care of each other, and, parents that I love and support me in all the things, and, so yeah, that was kind of I guess the broad strokes overview of a lot of years.
Yeah. Well, gosh, there's a couple things I wanna touch back on that. Thank you so much, by the way, for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always find it intriguing, just learning about people's foundation. You know, when we're in tough seasons, and especially as kids, like, we don't examine and have that self-awareness when
Mhm.
we're little about what's going on, or is this for a greater purpose, or how's this gonna shape my character? Like,
Yeah.
we don't think about that.
No.
I think what you said, like, I didn't have what other kids had, that's the stuff we're thinking about. We noticed our differences, we notice the hardships and the tension and the stress, and um I do find it funny that you shared a room with your 3 siblings and 2 bunk beds. We had that too. Me and my 3 sisters, we had 2 bunk beds in one room, and then our brother had his own room
Yep.
because he was the one boy. So, it was like, but yeah, the stealing the clothes and fighting, I mean, and we were all, I don't know if you guys are super close in age, we're all really close in age, like
Yeah,
13 months and 20 months,
yeah,
21 months apart. But
pretty much the
what's
same.
your age difference?
Yeah, so
Yeah?
the oldest is 29, second oldest is 28, I'm 26, and then Jill is 25. Well,
Oh, yeah.
2025. So, like, we're, like, real
Boom,
close.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as I got older, I used to think, like, "What was my mom thinking?" Like,
Yeah.
like, "Why did you think that was a good idea?" Boom, boom, boom. So many girls
Oh,
all in a row, but,
respect my mom so
um
much.
yeah, same, same. But I think what I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit was just this focus you had at the time, at being 12 years old and knowing that if I want this or if I want to buy something, like I need to get a job and I
Mhm.
need to earn it. Was that how all of your siblings were? Did all of you end up making your own money and working at a young age?
Yeah, I saw my older sisters start working before I started working. So my oldest sister, Kaylee, was the first to get a job. I think she got a job when she was 13 or 14. She was working for, like, a cafe, like, gourmet restaurant meat store type thing. So I remember, like, her going and biking herself to work, and, there's, like, a bike path along the lake shore that I think it was, like, 14 miles maybe, and I was
Oh,
like I thought she was crazy, like, biking 14 miles to work, and then eventually, like, Jess started working there too, and, then eventually I was like, "Okay, well, it's" I don't remember the exact moment, but, eventually I was like, "Okay, well, it's my turn too to go," and 'cause I saw the freedoms, I think, that they were able to have, but also the responsibilities, and obviously I looked up to them because they were my big sisters, so I was like, "Okay, they're doing it, it's my turn too," um, and I think we all started picking berries at the farm at one point together, before they got their, um, first jobs. I could be wrong on that. I have a hard time remembering the details of
yeah.
being really, really little, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, like, following in their footsteps and, just kind of seeing that's the natural path laid out. We homeschooled for part of our, like, younger years, and so I think there was from the outset an expectation set in our house of like you help like we helped with chores, we did dishes, we did laundry, like we helped clean the house, like we had responsibilities and expectations. And so in my mind that was like part of the like process of growing in responsibility and expectations is like okay, like you want more freedoms, you want to do things, like go and figure out how to do it. And so that
Mhm.
was kind of the thing that led me towards finding a job that a 12-year-old could do, which was
Yeah.
a farm, and I loved it.
Yeah. Did you eventually go to school? Like, did you guys go to high school?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we like, I homeschooled first kindergarten and then went to elementary school for 1st and 2nd grade. So, basically, we flipped in and out based on my mom's work schedule and my dad's stuff 'cause
Mm.
For a while, my mom was put on night rotations at the hospital, which was really tough, to be able to be there to help us with school, and then there were seasons where my dad was home more, so he was able to do that, and then so but we flip-flop back and forth, so I did a couple years of elementary school and public school, and then, I started in 4th grade, homeschooled, went back for 5th and 6th grade, and then I taught myself 7th and 8th grade because I got really
Whoa.
bored in middle school, and I was like, "I don't like this." And then I ended up doing, high school and public school so that we could do sports, and, just seemed like a better idea to go to public school for high school, and that's where my sisters were at that point too.
Mhm. Did you feel like when you were in high school, did you feel different, or did kids see you as different because you and your sisters worked?
No, I don't think so. Um,
Mhm.
I don't remember, any specific commentary or, um, weirdness. We also, like I grew up in a small town that more resembles, like, a Hallmark town, like, it was the town that everybody
Yeah.
from downstate came to vacation at, um, the Christmas time and, like, summer seasons, it's just like you walk the streets and it feels like you're, like, in a Gilmore Girls film, like, that's it was up.
Yes.
So, I think there was a lot of abnormal things perhaps that were normal in our area. I
Mhm.
think, like, just being in a small area that had really harsh seasons that, um, we just, like I think working and being outside and stuff of that nature is just kind of came naturally in that environment, like, people took care of each other,
Mhm.
they did extra stuff. So in that sense, I think it might have been more normalized in that, like, culture, than
Mhm.
maybe in other places. And there were other kids that would work in the summer, but maybe not during the school year. Um, so I think it was mixed, I would say.
Yeah.
My oldest sister definitely worked the most, working year round. For a while, I wasn't until like junior or senior year that I would work year round, just because of sports seasons and stuff like that, it was difficult, and I needed to drive myself to work at a certain point. So like once I turned 16, I was like, okay, like can probably work a little bit more. But
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit uncommon, but also common for there at the same time.
As you get older, you probably notice that you don't recover as fast from an injury or a hard workout. Well, it turns out the secret to healing, recovery, and resilience isn't just luck, it's stem cells. These are your body's built-in repair crew. But as we age, that system slows down. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower recovery. That is exactly why Qualia Stem Cell was created. Think of stem cells as your body's repair crew, and Qualia Stem Cell helps them do their job better. You don't have to accept slowing down. Help your body renew itself by reactivating the systems that keep you moving, healing, and thriving with Qualia's Stem Cells formula. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or just the wear and tear of life, this is for you. Qualia Stem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And right now, you can try it for up to 50% off at qualialife.com/Sally. And here's a bonus. Use the code SALLY for an additional 15% off your order. That's QUALIA life.com/Sally. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia just helps it do that better. And a big thanks to Qualia for sponsoring this episode. In an effort to get ahead of the skin aging process, which is coming very quickly, us McRaes have been using OneSkin. We've been a OneSkin customer long before they wanted to be a sponsor of the podcast. We have been using the OS1 body moisturizer and have been getting great results. At the core is their patented OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to target senescent cells, a key driver of wrinkles, fine lines, and loss of elasticity, all key signs of skin aging. Certified safe for sensitive skin, their products are free from over 1,500 harsh or irritating ingredients. Dermatologists tested and have been awarded the National Eczema Association Seal of Acceptance by the NEA, delivering powerful results without the harsh side effects. With more than 10,000 five-star reviews, people consistently mention smoother, firmer, healthier-looking skin and how easily these products fit into their daily routines. Editors have named OneSkin a leader in skin longevity with recognition from Fast Company, Mind Body Green, Bloomberg, and The Today Show. Born from over a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code SALLY at oneskin.co/Sally. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code SALLY. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
I love that. I mean, I had shared with you too, like I started working really young, and had 2 jobs by the time I was 15. And I agree with you. I think some demographics kind of lend more toward that than others. And I never felt, it was interesting because I never felt like weird about it, but I do remember at times thinking like, oh, I feel like I work more than other kids my age. But, and I'm curious, Kat, because I feel like it's so beneficial. Like I'm so grateful I started working young. Like I see how it's translated into work ethic in other areas of my life, being able to figure things out on my own, maybe a little bit better and sooner in life. And I think, you know, when you have a big family, like I grew up in the same size family, it is just known, like we help each other, we pull our own weight, like it's a lot of mouths to feed, it's a lot to take care of. It's just kind of like a known thing. Like if you're a big group of people, like we're a team, we, you know? But I like, do you look back on your life and are you really grateful for that? Are you grateful that there was a little bit of struggle? Do you see how it translates into your life today?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't change it at all. I think it taught me work ethic from a young age, for sure. It taught me responsibility. It taught me about other people and also how like being a team member, but also being a leader. Like I found myself quickly put into positions of leadership the longer I was at a job. And so I think I learned a lot of skills and was put in a lot of different environments. Um, and I appreciate that a lot because then when it came to living on my own and being independent and eventually like running my own businesses, like
Mhm.
it helps so much being able to, yeah, be in so many different environments, like anywhere from working on a golf course to like working at a terrain park to being a barista, working on a farm, like working in retail, like, and you meet a lot of people along the way and you learn a lot of things. And sometimes it's not the best days. Sometimes they're really, really hard, long days. Like, I was scrolling back in my photos this week and I came across a picture from my summer of 2018. I was working back staff at a golf course and I logged a 17-hour day with about 19 miles of walking in a work day, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did
Whoa.
that." I don't remember
Oh,
doing that, but I was like, "That's crazy." So it's stuff like that is like the little things like prepare you. Like that was honestly probably a great day of training for ultra, and I had no idea
yeah.
that's what I would do. So, yeah.
So true. That's so true. Yeah, you definitely increase in maturity and independence, in confidence, learning how to deal with all different types of personality
Yeah.
types, communication. I mean, I think it's invaluable. And yeah, I'm a huge advocate for it, like teaching kids to work. Yeah, and I think that we were like made to create
Yeah.
and to work and to serve and all of that. And I know that sometimes you know, we don't always know how to approach it. And even as parents, like when my kids were young, like that was a big deal to me just because I saw the benefits, for myself. But I
Mhm.
also like live in Southern California in an affluent area, but yet it's like a mixed area where there's like, you know, pe- like where I grew up, like a lot more kids worked, and
Mhm.
then like where my kids grow up, like
Yeah.
it's a little bit different. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I think our life experience is what we learn as kids. Like it greatly impacts us. And I know that like you, and we'll talk about this more later, but like you just launched your own
Mhm.
business at 26, which is incredible. And I think about how sometimes it takes us a long time to gain confidence and really navigate things, and sometimes it's just because we start a little bit later. But yeah, I think that definitely lends to where you started at such a young age. Kat, tell me just a little bit about like what would your family do growing up, like in the outdoors? Like, how did you come into running and like ultra events? Because you are, I would say, probably like on the younger side to already be so like well versed in like the 100 and 200-mile distance and to be doing so well. Like we don't meet a lot of young 20 somethings that are doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I joke that I have like 10 more years to get good at at running. So I'm like, I'm figuring
Right?
things out. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you got like 20 more years to go, like at least of like good racing.
it's exciting to me. I love it.
Yeah.
Still so much to explore. So yeah, I think both my parents loved being outside. So my dad grew up traveling a lot, moving around a lot, but spent a lot of time in North Carolina. And so he grew up surfer and he was definitely a surfer kid, loved being in the ocean. What he would spend all of his time doing. He's like, I don't want to go to college. I want to be a surf bum. But his parents were like, nope, you're going to college. And then my mom grew up on an apple orchard in Romeo, Michigan, which is a rural part of just like outside of Flint, I wanna say, or Detroit. I think outside of Detroit. So she grew up outside playing in the woods, climbing trees, like, helping out on the apple orchard. And then later in life, like, my mom was a runner her whole life and ran in college, and then my dad got into mountain biking and skiing, so, and they would go skiing together. So their relationship pre-us was very much, like, doing things outside together. And then that trickled down into, like, where we lived, but then also our family culture. So my mom would still go out for runs. My dad had to figure out how to keep surfing in Michigan and, um, found a way. It turns out November storms make really good waves on Lake Michigan, and so he got a very thick wetsuit and, would find a way to surf, and then he would start running to stay in shape so that when the waves did come, like, he was ready to go. And so they would stay pretty active. And then vacations were not the most uh, easy thing to pull off for the size of our family, and just like not super financially possible. And so we would go camping for our summer vacations, and we loved it growing up. We'd like find a camp spot at a campground and then find other kids, and we would just like play all day with all the other kids and hang out by the water. And that was our thing. So I think like being outside, being on the lake, being in the woods, going out for running was just kind of like what we watched our parents do, and then naturally trickled down into what we did together as a family. And when I was, I think 7 or 8 is whenever I first asked my mom if I could go for a run with her. She would do this 2-mile loop, like down our street by the lake shore, and then back up. And so I started running that loop with her one summer. And then by the end of the summer, I signed up for my first, well, I didn't sign up. They helped me sign up for my first
Yeah.
big 5K. And I ran that with my aunt. And I think that's just when the spark and the love for running really took off. And that's where,
You were 8
yeah,
at that time?
yeah.
Wow.
I started really loving it then, but I was still like playing soccer and doing other sports. And then running kind of became the focal point come high school. And then I think like, yeah, growing up in Northern Michigan is very much an outdoors culture. So there's not much to do other than be outside with other people. So there's not a lot going on outside of the lake. So that's kind of what you did with your friends and family and community and so on and so forth.
So you started running at 8 years old, ran your first 5K, and I love that you did it with your mom.
Yeah.
I remember the first time Mackenzie ran with me too, and we had a lot of good years running together. I'm sure those are nice memories you guys have together.
Mm-hmm.
Did you continue doing that through middle school and in high school? Tell us a little bit about your running journey.
Yeah. So I think I think that summer is when I really fell in love with running. It felt like it came naturally to me in a sense, but also was hard enough that I wanted to keep getting better at it. I think it's like that perfect meet in the middle where you have the like motivation of being good enough, but not good enough that you want to keep moving forward on something. I think that was kind of it for me. And I loved the process of getting better. I loved going out for the runs. I loved being outside. And so I just kind of kept doing it for fun, and there was not really any structure to it. I would just go with my mom when I wanted to go, and was still doing other recreational sports and stuff. And then, especially with being like in and out of school and homeschooling, there wasn't really any structured like running team until high school. So once I got to high school, I joined the cross country team and the track team, and then started going to like summer cross country camps and such. And that's where it became like very, I would say, more intentional and serious for me in terms of training and performance. I ended up like not continuing to play soccer in high school so that I could focus on running, just so that those seasons didn't overlap. And yeah, I fell in love with it. I loved being on the team. I loved doing hill repeats. I loved doing track intervals. Like you'll find me doing 200s all day long. And I loved the like 500-meter workouts that our 400-meter coach would have us do to make the 400-meter feel shorter. And so it just like it clicked. Like I loved the bus rides with the team and pre-race nerves and the cross country courses, which are mostly golf courses up there.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where it really took off, but then also plummeted in the later years of high school, which
Mm.
ultimately led me to leaving the sport. And so it was kind of like this like trajectory up and this like quick drop off in terms of going from loving this thing to like hating it so much.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into that. I know that you are on Substack
Yeah.
and you write,
Yeah.
and you recently wrote a little bit about that. I'd love to hear you talk about that because I don't feel like it's an uncommon story, and sometimes people fall out of running for like so many
Mhm.
different reasons. But We also have a lot of youth listeners too. We have high school and college athletes that listen to this podcast that I'm sure are going to resonate with what you're going to share. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that change, because just like looking at you, at your face right now when you're talking about how much you love the 500 repeats and all this stuff, and like it's so obvious that you have a natural, pure love for the sport. And I'm sure having it rooted in running with your mom, that 2-mile loop, like you have a fondness for it. And I think that sometimes that's the saddest part sometimes, is when someone comes in and kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
When you're young.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when people are put in leadership who shouldn't be in leadership, and I think that's kind of what happened. Is our cross country coach at the time had no business coaching for a lot of reasons. He didn't really know that
And
much.
this is high school,
Yeah,
right? Like your freshman year in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So freshman year of high school, the cross country, like we had seniors and we had juniors on the team. We had incoming freshmen. There was a fun culture to it. And then the next year after having this coach, like none of the upperclassmen came back. And so it was basically all underclassmen. We like lost half of our team. Every season, like almost the entire girls team would get injured. I started lifting with the football team sophomore year, and I never got injured all through high school. So if this is your sign to
Wow.
lift,
Yeah,
lift.
that's amazing. Why did you chose that for yourself?
Yeah, so we had a program called Athletes BE, which was essentially, I believe, an option so that the football coaches could have the football players lifting during the school day.
Yeah.
But there was 4 girls, a couple volleyball players, basketball player, and me, and we joined it as Athletes PE for like gym credit. And so that's where I learned to like squat and power clean and all of the gym things, and it was awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was like the cross country program was falling apart at the seams, and he created a really toxic environment emotionally and physically. Um, Performances weren't doing super well, and while like our team, like we loved each other, it made this dynamic hard. And I can't remember if it was sophomore year or junior year, but I was named team captain, and so I was put in this position of kind of the liaison between like the girls team that didn't like the coach and the coach that wasn't treating the girls team fairly, and then everything that didn't work kind of was put on me, and was my responsibility of like, okay, if we're going for a team run and somebody goes and jumps in the lake on the run and then keeps running, like it falls on me. And so and they just like continued to cascade and get worse and worse. And come junior year, it got quite bad. I honestly don't even remember the full extent to all of the things. And I honestly think my memory blocked out a lot of stuff. But it just created this really negative environment around running. And it got to the point where like I didn't enjoy going to cross country meets. I didn't enjoy doing the mile repeats. I just didn't enjoy being there. And it wasn't the running, it was the environment surrounding running. And it was tough because I put a lot of my identity into being the runner. Like we'd go to my grandparents' house and it's like, Kat, like, how's your running doing? Like, when's your next race? How was your performances? And I put that on myself. Like I labeled myself as athlete Kat, as runner Kat, as wanting to perform well, as wanting to be the best. And whenever running started to go poorly and created this toxic environment, it intertwined with then my worth and my identity are going poorly, and I don't know who I am. And it's this really challenging and not good place to be in, putting who I am as a person into something that is fleeting and I ultimately don't have that much control over and ultimately isn't my identity or my worth. And so come senior year, I just got to this breaking point with it where I I hated it. Like I couldn't stand going to practice. And over the summer, I'd started skateboarding and met the new friends group from somebody that I worked with. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, where it's like skateboarding and snowboarding kind of created this interest and this spark for me of relearning something that felt challenging that I had a good enoughness to like keep trying at, but I wasn't very good at it at the same time. And I'm very much like an all in or all out. And it was very like black and white in my mind of like running is going very poorly right now. I don't enjoy being on this like team. Um, and there's this group of people that I admire and I like this thing and I want to be part of this culture. This seems cool. And so I fumbled my way through cross country season senior year, but like wasn't going to every practice and like didn't do well at meets and it was just kind of like going through the motions. And then come spring track season, I'd spent the whole winter snowboarding, wasn't really running, and ended up going to my track coach. And I love to track, like team culture and track team is awesome. Like one of my coaches still messages me sometimes, and
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm sorry, like I can't do this anymore. I don't want anything to do with running. Like I'm tired of this. My interest is in this other place now. And I think that was just where I went from like kind of pulling away from this identity I put on myself to completely like stripping it. And it left me in this very vulnerable place of all of these things that I had labeled myself as and put my worth in were gone. And all of these ways that the community between my classmates, the people I worked with, the people in town, the people I went to church with, my family, like that was not there. So it's like, who am I? How do I relate to everybody? Um, and I was very, like, very lost. And then was then put into this subculture of people that I shouldn't have been hanging around with in a culture that I shouldn't have been in. And it led to a very quick spiral of me trying to fill that hole that was left and put a new identity on what was gone. And, it led to me looking in the mirror, a year later and not recognizing myself. I had stepped away
Mhm.
from all of my friends I'd been running with because I wasn't running anymore. I had changed the way that I looked. Like, I found myself, like, completely apathetic my senior year, and what I know now, is that I was crying out for help because I needed a lot of help on things, and I needed security, and I needed somebody to help come alongside me and lift me up, and help me through this season, but unfortunately, like, I didn't have that at the time, and so I continued down this spiral of, like, hanging out with this group of friends and going out and partying and drinking and doing things that I should not have been doing, lying to my parents, and my relationship with my parents at this time was not good because I was rebellious cat, and I thought I knew best, but really I was just, like, fighting myself of, like, not knowing who I was and trying to put things that I thought would affirm who I wanted to be or be respected by this group of people or find my way, if you will.
Mhm.
And so the good thing that came out of this is I met my husband. He was a professional snowboarder. And so if nothing else, this time taught me a lot of things. And um, I saw a lot of favor and grace on my life of protecting me from a lot of things that I could have gotten into and could have done. But like, yeah, the good thing that came out of it is I met my husband at a snowboarding camp. Um, I didn't know that at the time. I was like, I'm staying far away from snowboarders boys. Like, I know what they're like. I'm not doing that. Um, and he messaged me on Instagram a couple of times, and I was like, "No, no, no." Um, you can no. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, that season was a very big low, and I think, like, the biggest lesson that I learned coming out of it is putting my identity in things that are or in someone that is safe and is like let me put my sentence together. I have an identity that is firm and rooted and unshakable and doesn't rely on me and performance and external factors. And for me, like as a believer, that's putting my identity in being a child that's loved by God. And so I didn't
Mm.
have to do anything to earn that. And nobody can strip that away from me, and there's no performance or lack thereof that will change that. And I think, like, that's what Kat at that time needed to learn is, like, what I thought I had completely ruined, um, was really just, like, needing to be stripped away to get back to, like, where my identity actually is, and not having to do anything to earn it, or in the respect of, or so on and so forth. So, that's kind of the trajectory of me falling in love with running and then falling out of love with running and going through a very rebellious, difficult season of life, which then I found my way out of.
Mhm. That was beautiful. And there's a lot of good stuff in there that I know we're gonna revisit. I'm curious, did you ever have a hard conversation with your cross country coach? Like, did he target you? What was like the biggest thing with him? Because it sounds like the team was just falling apart
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I think, there was a lot, and honestly, I think there was a lot that I wasn't personally privy to. I know a lot of the parents on the cross country team had meetings with the assistant coach, with our athletic director, had been requesting a
Mm,
coaching change. I think there were things going on in his personal life and with his, um, personal health that, um, I don't even know the full extent of, but we were more so experiencing the symptoms of, and there was a lot of unhealthy things
mm,
going on there, with how he treated people, with the way that he made decisions, the way that things were communicated or lack thereof, that created this very tense and toxic culture. So to this
mhm,
day, I don't even know all the stuff going on in the background that the parents know. It hasn't been shared with me. Um, but there was a lot going on between, like, parents trying to advocate for us, but ultimately, like, things not changing, from a leadership perspective.
mhm.
Thankfully, now there's somebody else who crushed the cross country team in a positive way,
Yeah.
years later, but, um, yeah, it put me in an interesting position where I kinda had to advocate for my teammates who I cared for, and stand up for what I knew was right, but also, like, needing to submit to authority at the same time in a respectful way of, like, not trying to step out of bounds, and I can guarantee, like, 14 to 17-year-old Kat, like, made mistakes, and I really don't remember all of them, but it was just, like, it was too much, for what should have been going on, and what ultimately should have been, like, a fun and positive experience, to be part of the team, to be led, to be poured into. I know there's so many amazing cross-country coaches and track coaches that, people can look to and be like, "They really inspired me in this way or encouraged me in this way." And there was no inspiring and there was no encouraging, and there was no,
Yeah.
like, lifting and building up of people.
Mhm. I imagine that was hard for your parents to watch too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
My mom has, admitted to some mama bear moments where she's just like, I just wanna go in and, like, be mama bear, but, like, how do I handle
Yeah.
this?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult position to be in, as a parent and I
Mhm.
imagine, and as a student, so
Yeah. We had that with Mackenzie, some toxicity, and she was on running club and high school, so it was I had some mama bear moments too. What we found was, like, we can equip our kids
Mhm,
with what is healthy and good and true and give them tools for how to respond and how to be, but, oh my gosh, some of the moments that she would come home and share just
yeah,
enraged me. Like, I was just like, "This is not like, it's not okay." It's really common, though.
mhm,
High school athletics, is just a different. Especially because, like, you look at, like, club and stuff, and, like, those guys are getting paid well, like, that's their career, and a lot of times schools, like, they just need someone to step in and help, we need people to coach. It's hard to find coaches that are only gonna make a couple $1,000s for an entire season,
mhm,
and so sometimes, you might not always get the most well-trained coach, or a coach that knows how to deal with youth or communicate in a healthy way.
Mhm.
Kat, how did you so it's crazy because you were 18 when you graduated from high school, and here you are, you're just 8 years removed from high school. How did you find your way back to running
Yeah.
and get to where you are today? I mean, I'm so impressed with your trajectory.
Honestly, like, it's nothing short of a miracle, and I credit that to the Lord and his love and grace and patience with me.
Mhm.
Ultimately, like, I graduated senior year and I had turned down my college offer to run. Um, I was like, I
Mm.
don't wanna do this anymore, and so I basically turned my back on my whole plan, the college that I had intended to go to, the program that I was gonna run for, and so I took a gap semester after high school. Um, my parents moved to Virginia right after I graduated from my dad's new job. And so I stayed in Michigan and lived on my own for the first time and just continued working and trying to figure out what was next for me. At the time, I was still snowboarding and working and kind of hanging out a bit with this group of people. And ultimately made the decision to go to Northern Michigan University. And I had already like decided before graduating that I wanted to study exercise science. Um, and so I chose their exercise science program, and it was kind of a natural separation from that environment when I went to college. But honestly, college was really, really hard for me, because all at once I didn't have my family around me. I lost all of
Mm.
my friends. Um, I
Mhm.
didn't recognize myself both, like, internally and externally, and so I walked into my first semester of college, and I started a semester late, so I was starting at, like, in January after all of the freshman year, like, get to know each other, like, activities are over, and was really lonely. Um, and I
Mhm.
think that it was a really, really hard season, but, um I needed it. Um, as uncomfortable and terrible as it was, like, in retrospect, like, I needed to get rid of all of the noise. I needed to remove
Mhm.
myself from this friends group, and I needed to be in a space where I'm like, "Okay, like, I don't have really anything left in terms of, like, things to stand on." Like, I had no foundation left underneath me, and that needed to be rebuilt. And so it was just this very, very slow process of, like, the right people coming into my life at the right time. And I'd really just, like, spent a lot of years just, like, walking away from the Lord and just trying to do my own thing, and it was just, like, this slow path of, like, turning around and walking back towards Him. And even in all of my rebellion, like, I can see so many moments where, like, He protected me and cared for me and loved me even though I was running in the opposite direction, and so I was kind of
Mhm.
primed in this very lonely, isolated season of, like, "Okay, where else do I turn to?" Like, where
Mhm.
else do I go? And so I turned ever so slowly back,
Mhm.
and I had friends come into my life and got into like rock climbing and going back to the gym and um, found my way back into things that made me feel like me again. But ultimately, like, I can't credit any of that other than to God helping me through. Like, I couldn't have done any of that on my own. And on summer break, I came back home and was working at a running store, even though I didn't run, but I was like, I know something about this. And I guess not home, but my first time coming back to Virginia, and we were living in Richmond at the time. And one of my coworkers was a CrossFit coach, and she invited me to one of her classes that she went to. And I was like, sure, why not? So I went to the 5:30 a.m. CrossFit class, and I was like, whoa, it feels like being on a team again. It feels like having structure. It
Mm.
feels like competition and hard work. And I went to every 5:30 a.m. class the rest of the summer. I couldn't really afford to pay the full membership, so the gym owner let me clean the gym in exchange for going to classes. And then I'm so grateful because that was a pivotal moment, that opened the door to where I am now in terms of coaching, and, I, like, looked up to see if there was a CrossFit gym next to my school in Michigan, and sure enough, there was one, like, 2 blocks away from my dorm, and I cold called the business owner, speaking of spending a lot of time working for my mortgage paying off, but I cold called the business owner, and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm a student at MU, I'm studying exercise science, like, I started doing CrossFit, like, could I intern for you? And it was such a God thing because on the call, he was like, "Sure," and he offered me a paid internship, which is unheard of, and
Wow.
I got to spend the next
Yeah.
semester, like, working under him, learning how to coach, learning the back end of the business, learning his methodology of programming, like, learning how to do CrossFit at a higher level, and that really put me on this trajectory of, like, moving into coaching full time. Um, I ultimately, like, had to leave NMU early. I couldn't afford to keep paying my way there because since my parents moved, I had to start paying out of state tuition, and I couldn't afford
Mhm.
to pay it on my own, and so in the middle of Christmas break, sat down with my parents and we were like, we have no idea how we're gonna pull this off." And so I ended up having to pack up my dorm room in the middle of Christmas break, like, travel out there with my
Mhm.
dad, pack up my dorm room, drive back. Didn't get to say bye to any of my friends because I didn't know that I was not able to go back. And I felt like such a failure, again, having to leave this, like, life that I had built. But
Mhm.
3 months later, the pandemic hit, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
such a grace because I would have been trapped in Michigan in a dorm room with no family, 4 months on end. I think the borders had closed at one point, and so I was able to be
Mhm.
at home with my family, and I built a CrossFit gym in the garage with my dad. I trained, like, multiple sessions that whole summer, um, and then got my first coaching job, in 2021, um, shortly after. So I feel like a lot of my life has been, like, moments of, like, disappointment and failure turning into some of the biggest blessings or, like, putting me on the path to where I am now, and all being massive learning lessons and maturing me and forming me, and so while none of them were fun to go through in the moment, like, I can look back now with hindsight and be grateful for, like, how they shaped me, and so all really cool things, and, um, still getting back to the running part, I still wasn't running until, like, later into 2021. My running was kind of in, CrossFit workouts. I had, as I do, went all in on CrossFit. I was training 2 to 3 sessions a day, doing competitive, like, CrossFit programming, um, and then ended up with coaching full time, got my certification, started doing personal training and nutrition coaching on top of coaching CrossFit classes, and then found myself in charge of, like, 100 members of the gym, and, that's where I got my crash course on, like, how to coach and how to run a coaching business beyond the internship, like, it was incredible, I'm so grateful for my time there. But yeah, I was doing coaching, and one of the athletes that I worked with, asked if I would help crew her 100-miler at Tunnel Hill. Little did I know then that that's such a classic 100-miler,
Yeah.
and I had no idea what I was, like, signing up for really, like, at that time, I think Courtney had won Moab overall, and I saw her on a podcast, so, like, when these big performances cross over into other spheres, like, that's how I found out about this, like, trail ultra sport, and I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool that a woman is dominating." I'm immediately interested, and so, yeah, I went out to the race with her, and I paced her for a section in the middle of the night, and I was just so inspired. Like, because of the Allenback course, like, there was runners going both directions, you got to cheer people on, and I
Mhm.
think it was, like, freezing rain, and she was pretty, like, hypothermic. I remember, like, locking arms with her, and she was, like, kind of, like, swaying back and forth, like, trying to stay awake, standing up, and I just never seen somebody fight like that before, and
Mm.
I was like, "I have to experience this. This is so cool."
Wow.
And so over Thanksgiving break, this was late 2021, I went for a run when I was home in Michigan, and I was like, "Well, how far can I run today?" And I ran 30 miles, and I was like, "Okay, what else can I do?" Um,
Wait, you just ran 30
yeah.
miles? Just went out and ran 30, and you hadn't ever run a half marathon or marathon?
I might have run a half marathon at some point. At that point, like,
That's
all of my conditioning
crazy.
was coming from CrossFit sessions, and some of our workouts would have running in them, but did a lot of, like, in CrossFit, what we call monostructural work, which is low aerobic training between, like, rowing and ski ergs and bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just had overconfidence of being a CrossFitter. I was like, "Oh, I do CrossFit. I'm prepared for anything."
That's crazy. And on your own, like you just went and did 30 miles on your own.
Yeah.
Did you stop at like gas stations to get food and like calories? Like
Yeah, so
what course did you do? Like that's amazing.
there's this wheelway called the Little Traverse Wheelway. It's a bike path that goes
Mhm.
from Petoskey to Charlevoix. So we went to school in Petoskey, lived in Charlevoix, and it follows the lakeshore. This was my dad's first crewing experience. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna go for a run. I'm not really sure how far I'm gonna run, but can you meet me here with water?" Because all I knew about nutrition was what I had learned from my friend's race. So, like, got a hodgepodge of things, got myself a running
Yeah.
vest. And I was like, "All right, here we go." And there was, like, a mix of, like, running and walking, but, I was like, "I've never traveled this far on my feet before." And so, yeah, it was
Wow.
it was very, I don't know, blissful ignorance, but also just, like, I was like, "I have to figure out what I can do here. This I'm so inspired." Um,
It's very Dean Carnassus. Like that's like what he did when he first started running. He just
yeah.
on his birthday went out and just ran and didn't stop. And I'm so impressed. Did you get injured? Were you like sore? Was anything? Because you're so strong, right?
Yeah.
Your body was so strong from CrossFit.
Yeah, I don't think I was sore, like, I might have had tight calves, but nothing stands out to
Wow.
me. Um, I am very grateful that I've never had a long-term running injury, and I really like
That's
I
amazing.
know we are both in the same camp of advocating for
Yeah.
strength training, but I've been doing it since
Yes.
18, so I think a lot of years of doing that and maybe some
Mhm.
genetics in terms of my biomechanics are helping me out, but, um, yeah, I didn't hurt myself, so grateful for
That's Did you ever compete in CrossFit or did
that.
you only coach?
Yeah, I competed in some local competitions, and then I competed in the CrossFit Open, which is
Oh,
like
amazing.
worldwide competition
Yeah.
that filters athletes down for the games track. And one of my friends I was training with was actually a CrossFit Games athlete. And so
Oh, wow.
learning from him was really helpful. I don't think I would ever made it to the games, and I I attributed that to having extraordinarily long limbs. I just, like, can't do handstand push-ups fast enough, and my squats take so much longer because my legs are so long, but I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
That's wild. Do you do any types of those workouts anymore? I mean, obviously you gotta do a lot of running, but
Yeah, not really so much anymore. Once I really focused in on ultra running and definitely once I went towards the professional level, now everything that I do is focused towards being the best that I can on trail. So my coach,
Mhm.
Hannah Allgood, who's, also a PT, she does all my strength programming, so
And
I
strength.
yeah.
She's big on strength too. Yeah, she's solid.
Yes.
Yeah, incredible athlete.
She's incredible, and yeah,
Yeah.
I put all of my strength and mobility in her camp and let her tell me what's what's best to do at this point.
Yeah.
So, there's still squatting and stuff like that, but nothing like the Metcons and not the Olympic weightlifting that I used to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that foundation is it's undeniable, especially when you start it at such a young age. So it is wild. So you were like 21 when you did that 30-mile run?
I
22?
would have just
How
turned
old were you?
22, yeah.
Wow. So you've really only been in the sport for like 4 years?
Mhm. Yep.
Oh my gosh. So you did that 30-mile run, that probably gave you the biggest boost of confidence.
Yeah.
And then when did you sign up for your first ultra?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't sign up for my first race until April of 2022. I had finally allowed Jason to meet me for a run. So Jason's my husband, and the pandemic ended his professional snowboarding contracts, and so he was also in this phase of like trying to find what was
Mm.
next. And he was interested in triathlon and cycling and running, and he saw I was coaching. And I was like,
You
um,
guys were dating at this time?
no, he DM'd me because he wanted to go for a run and learn from me, and I was like, I know you're
Oh yeah, learn from you?
um, so many tries, and eventually I was like, "Fine, but you have to meet me at my work." But he had found this race, and he was doing it with his CrossFit coach because he started doing CrossFit. We were living in different places at the time. Um, and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this race. They've got a 50K," and it was like 2 weeks before, and I was like, "Sign up."
Oh
Um,
my
so
gosh. 2 weeks before you just signed up for it? But you'd already run the distance, so you probably had a little bit of
I was like,
confidence.
"Yeah, I can run the distance," but I've never done, like, on trail because this was, like, a paved wheelway that I ran my first 30 miles.
Yeah.
Um, and so I signed up. I did a couple, like, cram training runs as one shouldn't do. Um, and,
When you should be tapering.
yeah, absolutely do not recommend to anyone. Blissful ignorance, I guess. And, yeah, so I signed up and, the race is on, a mountain that's right where we live now, and actually the first place we lived after we got married, so it's, a cool little trail network and special place for
Yeah.
us. And, yeah, I went out, my parents came, and Jason ran the half marathon, and I ran the 50K, and that was probably, I think, one of the most pivotal days in my life that I can remember,
Hmm.
and it was so special. I was like, "I don't know what I can do on this course, like, I don't know if I can finish because it is." I think it had, like, 6,000 feet of elevation gain, and I was like, "I've never
Oh,
climbed a
wow.
mountain before."
Yeah,
Um,
that's solid.
yeah, and I think, like, being out there just felt so natural and intimidating at the same time, and I remember because it was a looped course, being on one of the loops and having just finished a climb and, coming down the trail, and the light was coming through the trees, and it was just so
Mm.
beautiful, and I just remember smiling, and in that moment, like, for the first time in my life, I felt like God spoke so clearly to me, and he told me, it was just like, "Hey, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and I'm not done yet." And from that moment, I
Mhm.
had just, like, so much joy and so much peace, and I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. Not, like, clearly, but I was like, "This is the path that I need to go
Right,
down, like,
right.
this is what I'm meant to do," and it felt like in that moment, everything clicked. Like, all the challenges that I faced in running, falling away from the sport, doing CrossFit that prepared my body so well for the mountains, going through, like, the emotional and character building things that I had to work through, like, to be in a place that I was ready to take on this challenge because it does challenge not just, like, the body, but the mind, and the body also needs to be ready, and so that was, like, the perfect moment and so special. So after that race, I was like, "Alright, what's next?" Like, and I signed up for
Mhm.
100K that fall with, like, a bunch more climbing. I was like, "I don't know if I can finish this, but I'm gonna do it." And from then on, it was just, like, doing the best that I could and getting coaching and getting serious about how I was training and signing up for more races that would challenge me and just trying to explore, try as many different things as I could, see what I loved, see what I was good at, see what I wasn't good at. Um, and it's crazy that it's it's been 4 years, from that race, I guess a little over 4 years now,
Mhm.
that's led me to where I am now, which I never dreamed of, but I'm so, so grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like you're doing what you were purposed to do. I mean, you essentially, because you got signed, 2 years ago, or was it last year that you got signed?
2025, what is this year? 2025 was my
This way.
first year, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So you started, and then just a few years later, you went professional.
Mhm.
Tell us what that was like, and how did that happen?
Yeah, so, in 2024, I ran Sedona Canyon's 125, which is the half version of.
Which is wild. So you were, like, a couple years in, you're like, "I'm gonna do 125 miles."
Yes. What I had also signed up for, well, I was like, I wanna try the multi-day thing. I was really inspired, I was really intrigued, and I was starting to pick up, like, the further that I went, the better that I seemed to perform, so I was like, "Okay, let's
Okay.
go really far then." And I put my name in the lottery for Moab 240, and I got my name drawn in January, and I was like, "Okay, like, I'm supposed to be here." It's
Hmm.
maybe not the race that you get in on the first draw, and so I was like, "Okay, this is what we're doing." So I was, chatting with my coach, and he was like, "Hey, there's a 125 in Arizona that could be a good test to just come
Training run?
yeah, over the 100 and it's in the desert." And I was like,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I ran Sedona and ended up winning it that year, and setting the course record.
Amazing.
And that was kind of I think the catalyst for doing something significant enough that, um, my resume carried weight with with companies. And then in the fall ran Moab and ended up placing 3rd and 10th overall. And
Incredible. And you were just 23,
I would have been
24 when you did that?
24. I had just turned 24 because, well, just turned
Gosh, it's
25 because my
incredible.
birthday is in October, right? Like, my
Yeah.
birthday was a couple days before the race. So,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you had Sedona, you won, set the course record at Sedona 2024, got on the podium at Moab 240.
Mhm.
And so you definitely imprinted your name and brands started noticing you. Did they reach out to you or were you kind of like actively reaching out because you're like, wait a minute, I think I can do this?
A little bit of both. So after Sedona and before Moab, I had reached out to a couple people and was honestly also seeking help trying to get to the start line of Moab. I almost wasn't able to make it to the start line with the
It's
financial cost.
expensive.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really I was making some significant sacrifices and going in on faith because signing up, I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna afford this, but we'll figure it out.
Mhm.
And 3 weeks before, I almost didn't make it, but we made it. And so throughout the summer, I was working to see if I could have any brand help to get me there, and some amazing brands stepped up to help. And 2 of which, one was Topo and one was Creepers, who are now my sponsors for 2 years, which is awesome.
Wow.
And so I had reached out to them, and then after Moab, I started working with an agent who was able to help me navigate the space. Just very brand new to it, had not much knowledge of the interworkings of how the back end of things go or contacts at certain companies. And so he was able to kind of help the conversations that I had started keep going and then make things more formal going into the 2025 season. And that's been really, really helpful to me just because it's a hard space to navigate, especially
Mhm.
I have found, like, being on the East Coast, just not having the in-person network per se, just because a lot of things aren't happening in person, boots on the ground over here, and so having somebody that's been in it for a little while helped me and helping me has been really helpful. So that was kind of the trajectory, and it felt like it happened very fast,
Yeah.
and I will say, like, going into 2025, it was a hard transition in the sense that I then started putting a lot of pressure on myself of like, "Okay,
Mhm.
like, this is serious, and you need to perform well." Like, you need to prove
Mhm.
that you need to be here, or that you should be here, and that's very not the right headspace, to be carried into
Mhm.
the year, and I think I learned a lot.
But very common.
Yeah.
Very common to immediately I've talked to so many athletes just like you that I remember I felt that same way too.
Mhm,
But you do feel that pressure, like you have to suddenly prove that you deserve to have been chosen.
mhm. Yeah, exactly, and,
Yeah.
I think there was also, like, imposter syndrome of, um, "Oh, it's a fluke, it's a mistake," and
Mm,
it wasn't, and it's not, but in my mind, it's like, "Oh, I'm not here, so, like, why, like, it must be a mistake. Maybe they, like, don't know me well enough or whatever." Like, the narratives we try to tell ourselves that we're not good enough, they're all
totally.
lies. And so
Mhm.
navigating and learning the way I needed to view it and approach it, and also just, like, put it back in the order, like, same thing going back to high school, Cat, like, my identity is not my performances, my identity is not the runners, my identity is not the sponsors that I have, like, my identity is unshakable, and is not relying on any of those things, and so coming back and taking a step back and be like, "Okay, these are all gifts, and these are all incredible opportunities, and I want to steward them well, but they are not who I am," if that makes sense. And so I
Yeah.
kinda had to, like, take a couple steps back mentally, and come in with a new viewpoint on it, um, and I think it's allowed me to appreciate it a lot more versus, feel like I'm putting a burden of responsibility on myself, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Absolutely. So that's wild. That was only just a couple years ago, but you began 2025, you had is it 3 sponsors? So you
Mhm.
had Creeper Socks, Topo Athletics, I see the hat you're
Yeah,
wearing,
precision, yeah.
Precision, which they're
Oh, they're
awesome. They're such a
so good.
fun
Oh,
they're so cool.
they're the
And Yeah, and they supported you so well at Cocodona. I think it was really fun to see them out there supporting you.
Yeah.
So you started 2025 and you were in Cocodona.
Mhm.
That was your first time doing Cocodona. So what was that year like? I know it was big pressure year and you're probably really excited going back to, that week, the Cocodona week, which is, it's like 5 races during that week. You had already done Sedona 125. You had gotten on the podium at Moab 240, and now you were going to go to arguably one of the most popular, most competitive, biggest 200s, which I always had to say, I was just talking to somebody else about this. A 250 is very different from a 200.
Yes.
50 more
Those 50
miles.
miles matter.
Yeah, the 50 miles do matter big time. Same thing at Moab. It's like you get into mile 200 and you're like, wait a minute. I have 40 more miles to go. Like this is not just a 200. This is different. So, what was that like standing at that start line in 2025? And then of course I'd love to tack on like this year too,
Yeah.
because you had an extraordinary performance this year.
Thanks. Yeah. So 2025, like I was definitely carrying like I had set big goals and I had specific performance desires that I wanted and I had I was working with Tyler Andrews at the time, who was my first coach who really got me to this point. And he is very mathematical and has spreadsheets and has a very specific unit of measurement that him and his friend created. I won't even try to explain it, but it's essentially a very fancy version of grade adjusted pace. So we could create spreadsheets, take my training data, put it into the spreadsheets based on specific sections, and know exactly like the pace and time that I should be running. So I knew the time on paper that I was capable of running, and I went in very focused on times and spreadsheets and all of the things. Um, and I was obviously, like, quite nervous, and 2025 was the big rain year where it rains almost
Mhm.
the entire race.
It's
Um, it
crazy.
was something different.
Yeah.
It was like, something I do before races is and big events is I spend time reading and a lot of times, like, specific verses will pop out to me, and I was reading in Isaiah, which is, a prophetic book in the Bible, and it was talking about how the Lord is doing something new and how he was gonna make rivers in the desert, and it's kind of like this redemptive story of taking something old and making it new and restoring it and redeeming it, and in my mind, I was, like, watching rivers flow in the desert after reading this, and I was like, "Whoa." Um, and I was like, "This is wild." Um,
This is literal.
this is it. Um, and so running basically from the jump, like, I was so nervous and so focused that, it was hard for me to kind of settle in and enjoy the experience. And I made my way up to Crown King and felt, like, pretty solid. I was on my splits, and then shortly after Crown King, about, like, 45 miles, once you're, like, running down Senators Highway, I started throwing up, and I couldn't keep food down for the next 10 hours. And I
Mm.
had never had issues keeping food down until in a race until this point, and it set me back a ways. It was also very cold and very rainy, and I was working off of a sleep plan, the same sleep strategy I used for Moab, but Cocodona starts at 5 AM, and so you're running a whole day versus Moab starting at noon, which I learned changes the sleep plan a whole lot,
Mhm.
and then very cold temperatures and a lot of exposure and rain and being soaking wet, um, and then add a massive caloric deficit to that. Um, I was just struggling, like, I didn't wanna be there, I wasn't having fun, and it just, like, put me in this huge physical and mental low. Um, was eventually able to, like, start getting food back in, by the time I was getting like, Fane Ranch at mile about 100 was, like, the first,
Mhm.
like, food I was able to put in and keep in. Those are
Whoa.
life-changing French toast, like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was so good.
That's a long time though
It
to be
was
in a calorie deficit.
it was
Yeah.
too long,
Yeah.
and so I was going up Mingus in the rain and trying to turn things around, and I still just like every time came back to my crew, and would just tell Jason like I don't want to be here, like I'm not having fun, but I kept going back out. I was like, I'm not going to quit, but I'm not
Mhm.
enjoying this. Um, and eventually it started to turn around, and I found a groove for a while. The rain subsided by the time we got up on the Cocodona Plateau. And I had no idea where I was in the race at the time. Um, but I think there was a 16-mile section. It was different than this year. That you had to run by yourself. And Cam Haynes and I were at the same point. We were kind of leapfrogging, and we started chatting for a second. He's like, Do you want to know where you are in the race?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he looked up, and I think I was in 4th at that time, like right behind Sarah. And I was like, "Okay, it's time to start chasing again." And so I started working pretty hard, and um, by the time we got to Tut Hill, we had like caught up
Mhm.
to each other and we're at the same aid station. And this was like the first time I was in the same place as another woman, like since leaving Crown King. Like we were so spread out that year. I spent so much of the race by myself. And that was such a gift. Because we laid down to take a nap. At that point I'd gotten, I think, less than an hour of sleep. And
Wow.
I don't
And that's like
10.
212
Yeah.
miles, 210 miles into the race.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I remember going down and to take a 45-minute nap. And I don't remember being woken up. I just remember like being in a form of like some kind of like panic attack. And like coming to,
Mm.
and like my sisters are putting clothes on me, and like Jason's trying to get my stuff on me. And I was just like so like confused and panicky. And like the next subsequent 2 to 3 hours, like I have very little memory of. Um,
Oh, wow.
I remember, like, going out of the aid station and getting to the first intersection and not knowing where to go, and, like, Sarah came up right behind me, and I was like, "Sarah, do you know where to go?" She's like, "I think this way." And so I just, like, followed in behind her feet. And I was like, I couldn't tell if this is reality or not. Like, they had put my dad, it was the, Walnut Canyon section. We couldn't have it
Yep.
closer that year, and it was night.
Yeah.
And they had put my dad in my AirPods to kind of, like, phone pace me through that section. And I kept
Oh, it's
asking, I was like,
amazing.
"Dad, like, is this is this real? I can't tell." I was, like, very confused. And, yeah, spent roughly 2 hours, like, following Sarah, and we had, like, I think, discussed, like, working together on that section just because it's a long solo section. Um, and eventually got to the point where I was just like, I don't really know where I am." I just, like,
Wow. You were, like, delusional.
yeah, I was very out of it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell, like, what was real and versus, like, what was not. And I eventually got to the point I was like, "Sarah, like, can you help me?" And she was phenomenal, and,
Mm.
got race command,
Just stayed with you.
yeah, and got her crew on the phone and talked,
So Sarah.
yeah, and she backtracked on course with me to, get to Jason. Race command had told him that they could pick me up at a road intersection and take me back to Tut Hill, and if I wanted to get back in the race, they could drop me back off where they picked me up. So I think, like, by the time I got to Jason, he's just like, "Your eyes were rolling back in your head," and I, like, got to the crew van and passed out for, like, 6 hours. Um,
Oh my
and so
gosh.
medical came and checked on me. I don't remember that. I talked to my coach on the phone. I don't remember that. Um, and so
Wow.
it was a very, like, scary and unnerving situation. And I eventually, like, woke back up, like, 6 or 7 hours had passed. And, like, I woke up and I was like, "What happened?" And that was really scary. Like, it felt like a dream, like one of those dreams where, like, something's happening to your family and you're, like, trying to get to them, but you can't, but, like, that was, like,
Yeah.
real. Um, and, eventually, like, I just, like, laid in bed, like, and cried in the van because I was like, "My race is over. I've disappointed everyone. What happened? That was so scary. I
Mhm.
don't wanna go back out there." Um, and, like, the same verse that I had been reading before the race was the verse of the day on the front of Jason's phone, and he didn't say anything, he just turned and showed it to me, and I was like, "Okay, like, I can go back out."
Mhm.
But it still took me a while to get to that point. My sister Jess was like, "What's the smallest yes that you can say?" Like, can you sit?
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, okay, I can sit up. She's like, can you stand? It's like, okay, like I can stand. She's like,
I love
let's see what we
that.
will. And eventually all those small yeses compounded to me going back to medical, getting checked to go back out, and going and finishing the race. And so I think 2025 was a hard year of um, accepting a day that was not what I wanted, but was maybe what I needed. Um, Learning that even when things are like really not going well, mentally, physically, like I am still capable of moving through, but also coming to the point where like I had to choose if I was going to live out what I believed or not. Like, was I going to keep going and have faith, like I say that I have, or was I going to crumble whenever it was something that felt too intimidating to keep going? And in that moment, I had to choose. And I'm proud of the choice that I made, but I was also left very hungry of like knowing that was not the performance that I was capable of. And that's also not the memory that I want to have there. And so coming back this year, um, I spent an entire year figuring out what went wrong, and that was doing the backwards math of the mental space going into the race, reworking sleep strategy, reworking like my plan, reworking just everything. I was just like going back to the drawing board. So I started working with a counselor to kind of help me with the mental side of things. I made a coaching change, not because my coach was not the right coach for me, like he's phenomenal, but I needed a change of approach. Um, and then yeah, reworking the nutrition. And I came back this year, and I told you this on Crown King is like last year I was too
Mhm.
focused on performance, and this year of fun. And literally from what, mile 7 or 10 or whenever we started running together, I was just like, "This race can end now." Like, I'm having so much
Aw.
fun being here,
We had so much fun.
and I was so grateful to be there. I was grateful for the opportunity, to be back. I felt so
Mhm.
supported by
Did you see our live stream? Our live stream, like, became a video
I did some
of you.
oh, so good.
It was so rad, like, you and I, like, helping each other with our water at that one aid station, and we're, like,
Yes,
chatting and
that's what it's about. Like, I knew that, like, enjoying the experience, enjoying the people that were around, like, and having fun would ultimately lead to the best day, and there's always things that go
Mhm.
wrong, but, like, if you are enjoying what you're doing, even whenever it's not fun, like, traditional fun, I think, like, leads to so much better. So, yeah, I was like, "I'm changing the
Mhm.
narrative this year, like, I'm having fun."
Yeah.
And yeah, I had incredible support from the team around me back here, from my PT to my coach to my counselor to my family to my community, to my sponsors and like the precision team showing up and Chris, who's
Mhm.
my sports scientist there, just over the course of this week becoming a dear friend and um, just feeling like so much love and like all of the pieces of things that had been such a struggle over the past few years, like coming together into that, like, it just became so full. Like, I started ugly crying after the race. I was just like, I just feel the fullness and the love of the people and this experience, and it's just like, it feel like it came to completeness. So yeah, this year didn't go perfectly either at the same spot as last year. My stomach turned on me. I think there's something about Senator's Highway that I need to figure out.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
were commissioned
So many
my
people were
mom.
throwing up in that aid station after that too.
Yeah.
Yes, you are right. It's rough. But Kat, it's interesting because in 2025, I mean, despite all of your troubles in 25, you still finished in the top 10, which was
Mhm.
phenomenal. You got 6th place. This year you finished 13 hours faster in the most competitive race. I mean, the depth in the women's field was so deep.
So incredible.
And you got top 10 again. Getting 6th place this year was just incredible. Like, your performance was amazing. I was so excited
Thank you.
for you. Um, and I'm sure that, as you moved along, like, it does sound like you had a pretty joyous
Yeah.
a pretty joyous race. How has it been for you? in these, we're 8-10 weeks post Cocodona 250. I know that you don't post heavily on social media. I think you and I even had conversations about this, but I do love that you share with so much intention. And I know that you're on Substack
Mhm.
and you have a film on YouTube,
Mhm.
and there is some very meaningful things that you put out, and I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Um, what is the last 8-10 weeks been like for you?
Yeah, so after Cocodona, I took, 2 weeks completely off running. Um, I was grateful to walk away without any soreness or niggles or injury, but I think that you still need to respect the work that goes into these races.
Mhm.
I think I even made a post as, like, "Respect the work, respect the rest," because it's not just the race, it's the whole training block that went in. I was training really, really hard for months. Um and Jason and I had just bought our first house,
Wow.
in the spring right before Cocodona, and so I was excited. I was like, "Okay, after Cocodona, I finally get to do all the projects that I have not had time to do with training and moving and all the things." And so after the race, I took 2 weeks, and after a week was incorporating some, like, cycling and stuff, but, I really took that time to kind of reset and process and think about the race and work on the house, spend time with my dog, spend time with, community and friends that I often don't get to spend as much time with in the thick of training, and I just felt like a really beautiful time of, like, rest and reset. And then since then, and I guess also in that time, I forgot, I was, in the final stages of getting my business ready to launch. Uh, and
Yes.
so I'm so grateful that the brain fog wasn't too intense, that I was able to come back and, like, actually, like, think clearly enough to work because I was like, "Perfect, no
Mhm.
distractions for a whole day." Like, I can, um,
Mhm.
focus on one thing without having to, like, run a million places. Um, and so that was kind of how things have looked since. And then after that break, I was able to launch my business and get back into training. And so now I'm in the build towards the rest of my, like, fall and late summer calendar, and then getting ready to leave the country here actually on Thursday, and then I race in Colorado in August, so now we're back to to the busy season.
Yeah. What are the races that you have on tap?
Yeah, so I'm doing, Aspen Backcountry 50K in Colorado.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
if anybody knows, the East Coast gets incredibly humid in the summer, and I tend to, around the August timeframe, get to a point where I'm, like, struggling through long runs because 'cause I'm tired of being sopping wet the whole time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Perfect, I will go to Colorado, breathe some dry air, and get a good training race in." So I'm gonna go out there and, have some fun in the mountains and breathing dry air and being at altitude. And then there's Grindstone 50K by UTMB, which is in my backyard.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go, enjoy that 50K. I've got my family coming out to run. My little sister's doing her first half marathon, so it'll
Oh,
be a
wow.
fun weekend with the family getting to trail run too. And then the main objective is Kodiak 100 miler by UTMB in
Yes.
October. Um,
Mhm.
hopefully looking to, opening up doors for some European running. So, that's
Yes.
kind of the
Yeah.
trajectory for the rest of the season. Feel excited about it. I've run Kodiak before, and it was my first West Coast race, and I loved it, so I'm excited to go back.
Yeah, it's, not as rooted and rocky as what you are used to. I love, Kat, too, that, you have a variety in the distances that you do. I think it's easy, um, to just stick to super long
Mhm.
distances, which can really beat up your body. But, putting in those 50Ks, you're keeping that good leg turnover. You're not beating up your body
Yeah.
so much all year long. And it sounds like, the UTMB and the Cocodona were those more of your A races, putting them on the
Yeah.
front and back
Yeah.
end of the
Yeah,
year. Mhm.
definitely. I think, like, from the outset, I wanted to try a lot of different races, and I've spent 2 years pretty focused on the 200 mile, and I'm like, "Okay, I wanna see where the speed can develop and
Yeah.
try new things." And I will say, like, the shorter, faster distances feel intimidating after doing long and
Yes.
slow. I need to relearn how to be very uncomfortable for 4 hours and change, and
Yeah.
so it feels intimidating and challenging to me in a different way, but I got to get back on the track and do some speed work, and that was super fun. So it's been a fun change of pace, literally and metaphorically, to try my hand at some other things. So yeah, I'd like to figure out how to keep the distance variety into my years. So it's figuring out how to plan them appropriately
Yeah.
is kind of where we're at.
I think you're smart. I mean, it's especially for your age too, and you have such a long career ahead of you. You can do this for a long time, and having those shorter races, working on speed, I mean, that's invaluable. I feel like in the competitive space, as we get more and more athletes coming from college
Mhm.
and from road marathons, it's like, dang,
Yeah.
the leg turnover and speed stuff is definitely important. But Kat, I know you've been a coach now for like 7
Mhm.
years. Um, I've spent like that's a solid amount of time. I want to hear you share a little bit about your decision to, because you were with was it Chosky
Mhm.
and Endurance
Yeah.
that you were coaching with,
Mhm.
and then now you decided to launch your own business. How did that come up to fruition? And then tell us a little about what it encompasses, what it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. So, I actually had started my first coaching company back in the fall of 2022. So was coaching full time at a performance gym, and then left, started my own company, and then also partnered with a friend of mine who's a professional cyclist. And she had her own coaching business and wanted me to come alongside on the nutrition side of things. And so I kind of went under her wing to learn the ropes specifically on endurance coaching. And so spent 2 years working on my own business, and eventually got to the point where like, okay, I think I've reached my knowledge level where I am by myself. And so I joined my coach's company, Chosky, because I wanted to keep learning and keep growing, learn from other coaches, just like experience more. There's a lot of really experienced coaches and athletes with Chosky. And so I set out to do that and found myself learning and growing in new ways. And I think got to a point where I was like, okay, I think I have learned and grown as much as I can, and it's now time to keep growing. And so I felt called to come back to my own business, and I think this time with a different vision. The first time was purely endurance coaching. I think this time around, I wanted to build something um, that has impact beyond just coaching, and that brings what I'm doing as a person, as an athlete, as a coach into one space. And so I built it around my name, my own brand, which I struggled with for a minute. I was like, this seems a little, I don't know, too much ego. I don't know. But I was
No.
like, no, I want to be able to bring together like all of the different things that I do because
Mhm.
they span a lot of different spaces and places. And so the fundamental belief that we are made for more is kind of the foundation which everything stands on under what I do, between what I'm doing as an athlete, projects in the media that I would like to do, and then what I do as a coach. I love helping people see how much more they're made for. I think I've seen that in my own life of eyes being opened to, like, going from just, like, "What is the furthest I can go?" and these, like, athletic goals to coming to this realization that there's such a bigger and deeper purpose in what we can do on this earth, and real people realizing, like, what they're capable of is phenomenal. And so within my coaching, that's what I love doing with trail athletes, and then I want to bring that into the media and what I'm doing as an athlete in lots of different ways. So that's what my business is doing. We are definitely um, in a space where I'm just trying to lean in and say the small yeses and keep refining and growing and learning. I think it will ever be a learning process. But yeah, that's the project on my plate at the moment.
That's amazing. And so you have your own roster of
Mhm.
athletes that you coach. Is your roster full?
I have 5 spots remaining. I
Okay.
stick to a roster of 20 athletes. I have
Okay.
found that that is the appropriate amount of athletes that I can take care of. I do very hands-on coaching, and so that is the capacity at which everyone gets all of my care. And so
Yeah.
I have 5, 5 to go.
All right. So our listeners, you heard that if you're looking for a coach. And I think too it's interesting. A lot of times we think that when you're a pro athlete that you don't need a coach, or if you know a lot about a sport, you don't need a coach. And I'm sure you experience this a lot, Kat. Like probably the most that you do is counseling
Mhm.
and listening to people and helping them troubleshoot and talking them off a ledge when they don't believe in
Yes.
themselves. I mean, it is you do pour yourself
Mhm.
into people when you coach them. And so, yeah, to our listeners, you're looking for a coach. I couldn't recommend Kat enough.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm so stoked that you are doing it. You're such an inspiration, I know, not only to me, but especially to like young people that are, I get messages all the time from people that are trying to figure out the sport. They're trying to figure out where they're fit in this big wide world, or they're afraid of trying something new, whether it is launching a business or doing a race or getting into a relationship or changing a career.
Mhm.
Um, we need each other, and it's amazing when we can find mentors who believe in us and help us and guide us. Um, do you know what your name means?
Uh, I don't. I feel like if I remember correctly, because my full name is Catherine Elizabeth, that I always remember growing up that my mom was like, "You're named after 2 queens," and, that
Yes.
there was a royalty aspect to my name, but other than that, I don't
Yes.
know specifically.
Yeah, I love doing this whenever I interview people. I always ask, and sometimes people know little bits, but it's when you deep dive into like someone's meaning, there's lots of different
Right.
meanings that come from different backgrounds, and there's like historical um and spiritual and stuff like that. But I was like, I think it's so incredible when I interview people and I look up their name before I interview them, or maybe if I've only had a couple conversations, I'm like, wow, you are your name in so many different ways. So I'm going to read these to you, and I really hope that they encourage you. Um, but Catherine it means pure of heart,
Mm,
which is a state of moral and spiritual integrity. So it's your inner thoughts, your motives, desires. They're sincere,
mm,
they're undivided, and they're free from deceit.
mm,
I think there's other meanings that go into that. One of them, the theme there is like wisdom and conviction. And so, as the patron saint of philosophers and scholars, Saint Catherine of Alexandria gives the name a spiritual aura of intellect, truth, and moral courage.
mm,
And then the other side of it is resilience.
mm.
Many who carry variations of the name are spiritually associated with endurance and standing firm in their belief.
Wow.
And I just thought, "Oh my gosh," like, listening to you talk this whole time, I was like, you are, like, living your name in so many beautiful, very powerful ways. And I'll tell you, Kat, when I ran with you, that was one of the first things I said to Eddie. I said, "I was so blown away
Mm,
by not only just like your emotional maturity, like I was like I could tell, I was like, I know she's been tough since she was young, which hearing your story you have. um but what really got me was just how brightly you shined as we ran along, and just the beauty of your faith and your belief and confidence in knowing who you are and your purpose here. I mean, that's something that we all long to know. I mean, a lot of us go through life
mm,
constantly searching for validation, for direction, for meaning. And to be so young and to have that underneath your feet is just so beautiful. And so I really hope that encourages you today, that your story is such a light, and there is great purpose for your life. And I think even the business that you've started, I'm so glad that it is your name,
Thank you.
because it's right there in the meaning of who you are. So
Thank you, Sally. That's very,
yeah.
very encouraging. And also, like, wow, that my parents picked those names, and it's like how I have developed and come to do what I do is wild. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything, endurance and just the moral conviction, everything is just so incredible. But yeah, I want to know how can we connect our listeners to you? Like, where is the best place to follow you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. It's cat.elizabeth_. And you can find all of the links to everything else there. I have my
Okay.
website is www.catedwardsanderson.com. So that's where you can find coaching and media projects that I've been involved in, and that will continue to grow. We've got some stuff in the works. And then I've recently started a Substack. I have learned that I like long form. And so I was like,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
I need to dip my toe on the water here. And so you can find the link to my Substack on my Instagram, but it's also at Cat Edwards Anderson. And that's all of the spaces and places. We do have a YouTube channel, Jason and Cat. Um, it has my Moab film on it. And we're looking to add to the resume there of running documentaries. And so you can find us there too. I believe it's also linked on my website and in my Instagram. But yeah, that's where I can be found.
I can attest, you're a beautiful writer. I really enjoyed your latest article, and I know Iron Sharpens Iron, the name of your documentary for Moab 240, is awesome too. It always brings me great joy that I've been given this platform, that I can help spread the word and hopefully build up other people's brands. I remember building in my earlier years, and it is so many people that helped me early on in my career. And so absolutely want to just help lift you up and push you out to our listeners.
Thank you.
It does mean a lot to professional athletes when you follow and engage with them online. It definitely helps. But we'll put all of those links in the show notes. And then, of course, we'll be pushing out the show and things like that. But Kat, I want to thank you just for being who you are, so boldly who you are, and sharing your story. It is incredible to see what you've done in such a short time here on Earth. You're definitely an encouragement and an inspiration. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been such an honor
Yeah.
and a pleasure, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm stoked that we got to, run with each other at Cocodona. That race brought us together. And to our listeners and everyone that is still running right now,
Oh, yeah.
I know some of you are still racing. Take your electrolytes, make sure you're drinking and eating, getting those calories in. But again, we just want to thank you so much for joining me and Kat today. Make sure you check out all of the links. But most importantly, I just want to encourage you to keep choosing strong in all you do.